Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to McKendree University and the Hettenhausen Center for the Arts. And thank you for joining us for tonight's event, both here and via Zoom. I think most everybody knows me, but if you don't, I'm Dan Dobbins, and I'm president of McKendree University, and honored to be able to serve in that role. And I'm a proud 1981, yes, that makes me quite old, alum of the university. There you go. You can say that, I can't, Mike. So tonight we're gathered for the Wayne E. Lanner Lecture Series, which is made possible through the generous gift from the Lanner family in honor of Wayne and his business accomplishments. And through this lecture series, we're fortunate that we get to bring influential business leaders and entrepreneurs to our campus to share their insights and strategy and knowledge and lessons learned that have been critical in their careers and their success, and more importantly, for an opportunity to share them with all of you students. So today, Mike Marchal has shared his time and talent with our campus and students. And Mike is a special speaker for us tonight just because of his business success, but also because of his important relationship to McKendree, to the McKendree family, and to our mission. So let me tell you a little bit of why Mike is so special to us. So Mike is the son of Mary Marchal, and Mary was a much beloved and long-serving employee of the university. So in addition to all of Mike's other civic duties, Mike serves as a member of the Board of Trustees for the university now for 11 years. He's currently the chair of our Resource Development Committee. And through his role as president of Holland Construction, he routinely offers his firm's many talents to us here at the school with all of our building projects and maintenance and construction things. So Mike serves us in many, many ways. So at this point, I'd like to invite some of our students to come forward and take over the microphone and more formally and comprehensively introduce our speaker tonight.
All right, well, hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for the introduction, President Dobbins. I am Jamari Jackson, and I am one of your hosts tonight. Welcome to the Wayne E. Lanner Lecture Series.
My name is Antoine Watson, and I'd like to introduce Marchal, President of Holland Construction. He oversees operations management, everything that goes on the construction place. And even although he does this type of stuff, one of his main passions is strategic planning and leadership development. Mr. Marchal is also a Board of Trustee in McKendree, and he serves our community in various ways. And yeah, I'd like to thank him for coming here and providing us with his expertise and leadership.
Okay, so let's get started. Mike, when we first spoke to you and we called you up to frame tonight, we said, come up with some ideas, give us some starting points, right? And you gave us 3 pillars that you felt were most important to your success. The first thing that you told us was expand yourself, do any job needed to make the project work. Be a servant leader, don't worry about who gets the credit. And lastly, surround yourself with smart people and nurture genuine relationships. In other words, your network is your net worth. I think those are some pretty great pillars. What do y'all think, folks? Yeah, pretty good? All right, perfect. Well, Mike, how are you doing today? I know you're probably tired from being dragged to and from by us.
I've had a wonderful day, and I'm glad I'm living my own words right now by surrounding myself with smart people. I've been able to hang out with Jamari and Antoine today, and so I have great hope for the future after talking with you guys and talking with all the students on campus.
Absolutely.
It's just phenomenal, and I wish I could recruit all of you into the construction business, because I need leaders like all of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. I hope you think as highly of us once we're done here tonight, okay?
I have no doubt.
That being said, I'd like to jump right in. Let's start with servant leadership, okay? For those of you who don't know, Mike is going on at Holland Construction almost 26 years. That's longer than I've been alive, so kudos for you there. But where was it that you first found yourself a servant at Holland?
I think probably from day one, really without knowing it. That's just how my parents were. You appreciate the nice comments. You know, my mom and dad were just that way. It was always about what can you do for other people? Mm-hmm. And so that's just kind of how I've always come at life and come at business, is just, you know, put other people's needs ahead of mine, and then good things have happened. So probably from day one. However, I would say that it was really magnified after hanging out with a guy like Bruce Holland, who's the founder of our company, and who really just he's the perfect, you know, servant leader.
Definitely.
And so being able to watch him for 25 years, I've just become more passionate about that process.
Definitely. So when you begin to dive into servant leadership, and for those who don't know, if you want to break down what it means basically, or the ideology of being a servant leader.
Yeah, to me, it's just putting others first. You know, serve is the kind of the core word there, and it's just what do other people need?
Right.
And if you can tap into, you know, how they, you know, what are their pain points, and if you can tap into how to make that pain go away, they're going to trust you and they're going to want to be around you. So that applies for your friends, for your coworkers, your family members, but certainly for winning business, you know, you have to be able to you have to earn their trust.
Right.
And so when you put those others' needs first, they tend to appreciate that and come back for more.
So you talk about putting others' needs first, right? In most instances and scenarios, and I'd imagine that comes with a lot of sacrifice, right? But at times, did it come with having to do things that were hard, right? Or things that you didn't necessarily want to do, but the job required it?
Well, they call it work, right? They don't call it play. So no matter what job you're in, it's not going to be perfect all the time. So certainly there are things that I look forward to doing less than other things. Frankly, this kind of event, you know, being the center of attention is not my natural habitat. But everything that I may get anxiety from or not look forward to, there's always a silver lining. So doing these kind of events, talking in front of people, you know, it stretches me, and so and then I'm able to deliver a message.
Right.
And so hopefully you know, I'm able to impart some knowledge, but I'm also able to learn something. You know, I don't like to say no. So that's another thing that I don't like to do. Okay. I like to take care of people. I like to please our customers. So sometimes you have to say no. Like right now, we are short on people in our business and in the workforce. And so as new business comes along, sometimes we have to say, no, we cannot do that. And that's painful for me to have to say no.
Definitely. Okay. And saying no, you're saying no to business that comes to you is what you're saying. Not no negatively, like, no, we're not going to build this, but no, we need an alternative way.
It's no, we don't have the teams to be able to do this right now, but if you can push the schedule, you know, start date a little bit later or something like that, then we can.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're not just denying
our
people.
business is all about reputation, and you have to have strong teams to lead these big projects. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have those strong teams, we're better off to say, you know what, we're going to have to pass on this one because we're not going to jeopardize our reputation to do something with a team that's not prepared for it.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. It's all about the teams that you put into place.
Right.
That being said, let's look on the opposite side, right? So we've talked about what it means, or the starting point of those 26 years ago of being a servant. Now that you're on the opposite end, right, and you're in that leadership seat, what's it like? Do you want to share it, perhaps?
Oh boy, what's it like to be a leader? It's an honor, number one. You know, it's not something that I necessarily went into when I was in college. I didn't necessarily sit there in college classrooms thinking, you know, someday I'm going to be the leader. I'm going to lead a company. I didn't necessarily aspire to that. I've never, the promotions and the opportunities I've been given at Holland, I've never asked for one thing during that time. So what it's like is I feel honored that people have come to Holland. They're making a bet on their life to come to Holland, that they're going to have a better future for their family. So I take that, and all of our leaders take that very seriously. They've taken a leap of faith to be with us when they could be with 50 other contractors in St. Louis. And so we take that to heart, and so we make that decision to come here, one that they never regret. Definitely. So we live that all the time, and it's not a transaction that ever ends. So once you're here, now we've got to make sure that we are giving you a career path to retirement, and that I want them to be proud of the place that they work, and so that's my job to keep that culture strong.
I see what you're doing. You're recruiting. I see what you're doing. Okay, fair enough.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Hey, anybody need a job at the moment? That being said, let's keep it going. So you talk about being a servant. We talk about the leadership spectrum of it. Throughout that process, did it ever become difficult to have that balance, right? Between, okay, I didn't have to ask for this leadership position. It's now been bestowed upon me. And those who were once my peers or my colleagues are now not, right? Like I'm their boss.
Right.
So what was that like for you?
It's funny how you go from being just one of the workers. I was a project manager with a bunch of project managers and pre-construction experts and the whole company, and all the funny emails that get bounced around that the leaders don't get copied on. I was in those. But as soon as I got into a leadership role, guess what? All
Jokes
that
stopped coming.
Just like that. So I haven't, I'm still the same. I'm a goofy guy, I like to have fun. So what takes time, people that have been with us a while, they recognize and they know me, and they know, look, we can all be ourselves. I want bring your genuine self to work every day. And my genuine self is somebody that likes to have fun. I want to get to know you on a personal level. I want to get to know your family, your kids if you have them, just everything. I want to get to know you as a person so that we can be a better place to work.
Absolutely.
So keeping that, keeping it somewhat removed, but it's a balance. But I would err on the side of, let's be friends.
Yeah.
A lot of my best friends are at Holland.
That's amazing. So if I also want to make friends, join the company to make friends.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not strictly business. Okay. Antoine, do you have anything?
Yes, so he brought up an earlier point that you mentioned about expanding yourself and forming relationships. So I'd like to touch on that a little bit. So where's some places that you go to, let's say, meet new people or form new prospects for, let's say, your company or your business?
Sure. Well, events like this, just being around other people. I always want to be someplace where I can learn and help. So coming to events like this, the event that we had this morning, which is where I met you, we did this speed networking event. There was other business people there, and I'm sitting at a table with other business owners. So you just never know. Maybe I'm able to help them. Maybe they're able to help me, or maybe they need a project sometime, or I can do something for them. It's not always about, I did something for you, now give me something. It's just, we're just helping one another. Right. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I guess the question was, where do we go to meet people to kind of win work? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of networking type groups. I belong to a group called Young Presidents Organization. Even though I've aged out, I'm the old guy in the group. But that's where business owners in St. Louis, they go to these events, and so we're just constantly trying to learn from one another. I could go on because I'm in different peer groups. We're non-competing general contractors around the country. We meet multiple times throughout the year, and we're just sharing best practices. There's a lot of mistakes that we can make, and if we can learn from one another.
Right.
So we're always trying to learn. Every day, just trying to learn something, one nugget a day, and I feel like I've accomplished something.
For a moment, that makes me think as well. Would you say that continual learning process is what's been key for Holland's success over time? I mean, the company is 35 years now.
Yep.
That's a long time.
I think that's true for any business, any successful business. If you stop learning, and as soon as you say, yep, I know everything, I think you're going to be dead real soon. So we are constantly just trying to stay up on the new technology. In our business, it's a technology-driven business. So we have to stay in tune with what's coming, not just what's here now, but what's happening in 5 years. Right. That's where I need young minds to help keep us creative. I don't think that way. I'm not a naturally creative person, but I'm self-aware enough to know that I better be surrounded by people that are forecasting and looking out 4 and 5 years to make sure we're relevant.
Right.
I don't want to see this. I want to see us thriving, and long after I'm retired, I want to look back and be proud of where the next generation is taking us.
Definitely.
Yeah, to go back to the point about meeting new people, I know it can be hard to meet new people, it can be hard to form new conversations with other people because you don't know, what they're, how they'll react. But what would you say is one of your biggest challenges when meeting new people, like for yourself or in terms of like the environment?
Sure. Well, when I was, early, your age or maybe just a little bit older, frankly, I didn't think that I had anything of interest to say to anybody. It was like, I remember coming into a big room. There might be in our industry, there's, industry receptions and things like that. And I would walk into this big banquet room. There'd be hundreds of people in there. And this is when I was probably, 25, 24 years old. And I just wanted to hug the outside of the wall and just get the heck out of there. If I didn't see anybody that I knew, and I'm scanning the room, please let there be somebody I know. And when there wasn't, what do you do? And so what I learned is, guess what? Everybody in that room feels almost the same way. You can walk up to any group of people, and not in a rude way, but just, hey, do you mind if I join? 100 out of 100 times they're going to say, absolutely, come on in. And you just start asking questions. So if you ask questions of people, that's their favorite topic. They love to talk about, where they're from, their passions, their hobbies, what they do for business, all that stuff. So when you can start talking, you can't do it because a book tells you to do it. Do it in a genuine way to genuinely learn about them. And that's how you build that trust and you build that relationship.
It's all about getting outside of your comfort zone and just doing things that you don't normally do, like getting used to, like listening to them and just building a relationship.
Well, like the event this morning, it was 8 o'clock in the morning, and a lot of people did not have to be there. The students did not have to be at that event. Some of them didn't even have class today. And the fact that they put themselves out there to even be in that moment, that's the first step. Just make the step. Put yourself out there. And then, like I said, don't be afraid to just insert yourself into a group. And people don't like awkwardness. So they want to take that away really quick. So take advantage of that.
Yeah, on the point of putting yourself out there, like my parents were a really huge mentor because I didn't used to put myself out there a lot. I used to just stay in a lot. I didn't really have like a mentor type of people until they started talking to me about like encouraging, like getting myself out there, sharing myself. So who would you say were some of your like mentors or people that help you get outside your comfort zone as a person?
Yeah. Bruce Holland's going to be the answer to a lot of things for me. and that's the guy. He hired me, I was 24 years old, and he put me into a project management role, which is sort of rare. It's kind of young. And I've said this multiple times today, I had no business being in that role with the limited experience that I had at that time. But he had faith in me, and he just go. And if I made a mistake, he forgave me. He's like, yeah, did you learn from it? Yeah, I learned from it. And then he'd give me a bigger job, then a bigger job, and here's a promotion. And he was never like telling me what to do, but he was putting me in an environment where there was going to be tough decisions that needed to be made, and he trusted that I was going to make the right decision. So he is the one that has put me in outside of my comfort zone for the last 25 years.
Just continuously, just up again.
Yep.
You're like, I'm good now.
I appreciate him for it.
Good. I like to push on because touching with Bruce sort of brings us to the next segment, right? Understanding your network is also related to your net worth, right? And what would you say Bruce Holland has done for your net worth?
For my network or net worth?
Both.
Oh. Well, I'll start with net work. When I was coming into a leadership role, so a project manager, then a director of operations, and a VP, and then a president, he was very quick to take me under his wing and say, hey, I want to bring you with me. I'm going to have lunch with this group or this client. You need to join this board. I think you'd be great for meeting this potential client or something like that. So he was phenomenal in just getting me out there and introducing them. And when somebody like that is willing to introduce me as, and this is the next leader of our company, or this is the president of our company, and he says it with pride, and those people are looking at him, and it's like their trust for him is now being transferred to me, and I was able to watch that and feel that transfer. That was, that's just a very unique, it's a blessing. Definitely. That you don't often get. And as far as net worth, I wouldn't have jack squat if I didn't work at Holland. So, he's allowed us to grow and to to create a very successful business that I'm blessed to be a part owner of with other partners.
Right.
So I'm very, very lucky.
Definitely. What would you give or what advice would you give to either your 24-year-old self, right, before you're found by Holland, or to the next 24-year-old who's out there waiting to be found by a Holland Construction or a Bruce Holland or even a Mike Marchal, per se?
Yeah, I worried too much, maybe still do, but definitely back in my early 20s, worried way too much about what people thought. And so I would reserve my opinions on things in meetings, and the meeting would come and go, and I wouldn't have voiced an opinion out of concern that I wouldn't be bright enough, or nobody would care about what I had to say. And the fact is, you're in meetings to impart your opinion. That's why you're there. So I would say, don't worry about what people think as much. And I would also, I would have studied leadership earlier. I generally knew about it, but I hadn't been a student of it, which I have become now. I would have encouraged that earlier. I would have also told myself, pay attention during accounting class. Pay attention during so I have a business minor, and never did I think that I was going to lead a business. I was going to be a builder, so I needed to learn construction, but I didn't necessarily need to know macro and microeconomics and finance. And I took all those courses, and I learned it, but I wish I would have paid more attention. So now I've had to go back and restudy that. And then the important one, which I think is just, I would have emphasized that, always put other people's needs first, and good things will happen. So, not that I was selfish, but I think there were some other things I could have done differently earlier in life to really help some people. And so, always a lesson learned.
Definitely. Do you think that, I guess, this experience of growing your network as well as your net worth over time has been something that was a one and done, right? Like your interaction with Bruce Holland, was your one and done, or was it a passive experience over time that has allowed you to sort of blossom into this person that you've become?
It's definitely, it's iterative steps. It's not just meeting Bruce was certainly a big part of that. But then you can't stop. And if you're going to continue to grow as a person and grow as a company and create more opportunities, I got to continue to be out there. I've got to continue to train and teach other people how to put themselves out there. Definitely. So it's all the time. Today has been a phenomenal day, starting with breakfast and the multiple meetings that we've had in between. And just today, I would say, some good friends. Two of them sitting right next to me right now.
It's good to be considered a friend.
Well, just to make a good solid connections with people that I hope that continues. And I'm here to help you, and guess what? You can help me too. So
absolutely,
it never ends.
I have one more question for you, and then I know we probably have some questions from the public that might want to be asked. But for someone who doesn't consider themselves valuable, right? How does one add value to themselves so that others see them and say, hey, maybe I do want to add you to my network. Maybe I do want to consider you a friend, right?
Yeah. Whew. That one wasn't on the list. But I'll tell you.
If you like it,
I do like it. I do like it. I mean, that's a powerful question. How does somebody allow someone to feel value? And I think right now, especially, there's a lot of people that probably don't feel valued, or they feel devalued. And they may not feel like they've got a network of people to lean on. So we're just a builder. I'm not a social worker, Your mom is phenomenal.
Hey, Mom.
But in our way, so as leaders, we are responsible for other people's lives, at least for their livelihood. So part of it is just encouraging them to make it. You have a right, and I have the expectation, if you're at Holland, to make a difference. So I don't care I don't care if you're an intern. Where's Tiana Davis? I know she's here somewhere, right there. So she's an intern with us, and the expectation of her is, as she's going throughout her day, just because you're brand new to the company does not mean that your opinion doesn't matter. So if you see something that's just not right, or you see a process that you think you can make better, I want you to latch hold of that, and I want you to you have the autonomy to go fix it. Go spend money, go break stuff, make mistakes. Seriously, that's the best way to learn. Make mistakes, and who knows, you might be on to the next bright idea. So you don't have to have a title to make a difference, and that's very true in our business. So I would just say, take a risk. Everybody's got value. And if you're ever at a place where you don't feel value, you probably ought to leave, because life's too short to not feel valued. It's too critical.
Definitely. That's the advice of the night, for sure. I'd like to take a moment now to open it up to the floor. If there's any questions that anybody has for Mr. Marchal, now's the time. Who wants to go first? I see your hand.
If you'll give us a second, if you talk into the mic, we can catch it on the Zoom, so we're going to have you speak into the mic.
So at the start you were talking.
Grant, Mike.
So at the start you were talking about having to say no, just to like customers, and then you were also talking about the future. At what point do you consider expanding?
At what point do I consider expanding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the company.
Sure. So we are expanding. You know, we're going to be 50% bigger next year than we are this year. Our limiter is people, and it's not just warm bodies, but it's people that fit our culture. And to me, I'm not going to be the president forever, right? So when I turn this over to somebody, I want to be really proud, and I want them to be stepping into I want it to be a smooth transition. And so when I talk about culture, it's the softer side of business. It's not the, go out and kill everybody and squeeze the client for everything that they've got and fight for change orders and take advantage of situations. That's not our business. Our business is being empathetic, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. It's being genuine, being trustworthy, working hard. You got to be humble. You got to be smart. You got to be hungry. You got to want it, because this business is not for everybody. So you've got to be very aggressive. Being firm but fair. That fairness is a big critical component. Having a can-do attitude. We can accomplish anything. It's a function of time and money. So I want somebody that has that, glass is half full mentality. Most importantly, I want them to take their work seriously, but not themselves. So I want them to keep it light. We can have fun. We have permission to have fun in our business. And so when you add up all of those characteristics, that's what we're looking for in a person. And guess what? It's hard to find those people, and they have to love construction. So we have to interview anywhere from 10 to 20 people to find one fit. And so that's our limiter. So until we find that person, we're not going to settle. And so that's why when we pass on work, it's because we don't have A teams that fit those characteristics. So if you feel like you've checked all those boxes as I was giving those adjectives, come and see me, because we got a spot for you.
I'll come see you.
Good.
Is there anyone else? Oh, I see two.
Would you say that being a servant leader was a humbling experience?
So I guess if you're a true servant leader, you're naturally humble. To talk about being super humble is not being humble. So, is it a humbling experience? It's a humbling experience to be a leader, period, I would say. Just because you're on the stage, you're the center of attention, and you're being judged for everything that you do or don't do. So I think just being a leader in general, if you have any ounce of humility, you will be humbled. You will, if you think you're big stuff, be a leader for about 5 minutes, and you'll be knocked down a handful of rungs, which I think is good. And that is a humbling experience, for sure.
That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier about expanding your network in order to build business. So how does a person go about finding a mentor to build your network?
What are you studying?
I study accounting.
Accounting? And are you from this area and wanting to stay in this area? Yeah. So there are people that are my counterparts in accounting firms that they want to help people. They want to help young people. They need people as well. So what I would suggest, talking just to you directly, if you are in the accounting, that's what you want to study, and I can help you with some names, would be to look at the top accounting firms and find a leader within that firm and just reach out to them. And it'll take a while. They're busy. They're going to see, whether it's a LinkedIn request or just a cold email. They get a lot of those, and they're going to delete them, but maybe a guy like me could make a warm introduction and say, here's an up-and-coming star that wants to be in your business. I would like for you to meet them. So I'll give you a card afterwards, and I'll be happy to make that introduction for you.
Absolutely. Great question. Great question. Are there any more questions? I see your hand.
How can an introvert become an extroverted leader?
Good question. That's a great question.
So I'm not a scientist, and I don't know if this is exactly right. This is just my experience. I am an introvert. I'm naturally an introvert. And I don't know that I've become an extrovert. I think you are what you are, and you can adapt your behavior to be seen more extroverted, but I'm definitely not a natural extrovert. What I've learned, though, is how to be comfortable in my skin as an introvert and be able to do this kind of a thing. And so I think it just comes with practice. It comes with a mindset of, I need to be, if I'm going to be in a different role, I need to be different. I can't just hide behind a computer all day and expect for business and money just to come to my mailbox. It's not going to happen. So you've got to, or I've had to, just force myself out of my shell. Some of the stuff that we talked about earlier. Going to those events that you really don't want to go to, but just put yourself in that space. And there are, I don't know what the ratio of introvert to extrovert is in the world, but if it's 50-50, you got at least 50% of the group is just like you. And so it's so easy just to start talking to people. And so little by little it becomes just second nature. So when there's a meeting at our office, I want to take charge. I want to be at the center of that, not out of ego, but out of I'm the leader and they're looking for answers and they deserve guidance and leadership. So that's my role. And it just comes naturally. But I'm still an introvert.
Are there any other questions?
Mike, can I make a comment on that?
Hello, Mike.
I used to be very introverted. But I'm not anymore. You've been around me too long. I used to sit in the back of the classroom so I didn't get called on. I didn't want to have to talk. Well, I decided I was going to get over that, so I had forced myself all the way through college to sit in the front row, because you always get more questions in the front row than you do in the back, and you learn to deal with it. That's just a thing that you can do if you have a problem. Some of us just fear that you're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, but the only way you learn not to do that is to be asked enough times that you don't make any mistakes anymore.
Good advice.
Down here, have a question? Anyone want to ask from here?
As a president who wasn't really a student of leadership, how do you manage to keep the place with good ethical standards and practices?
It starts, that's a good question. So I think everybody heard that. How do you maintain ethical standards as you're growing? And it starts with how you hire and who you hire, and having values that everybody knows, and that's what we measure against. So we're very careful. I mean, you can't test for ethics. We've got a couple assessments that we're going to run you through, and we're going to be trying to capture: are you a cultural fit? Are you intelligent? But are you ethical? That's not something that we can get on a test. So we're going to try to nail that before we even bring you, in as a new hire. And how we try to test for that is, number one, just reading your body language and just in the interaction. What's important to you during the interview? Yeah, you can still squeak by. You can still sneak past us. And checking references. That's a big one. But you can still sneak past us. So then once you're here, you're immediately thrust into so many opportunities to take advantage of people. Construction there's a lot of money. There's hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. There's a lot of personalities at stake. There's egos in the way. There's all kinds of stuff. And so we're going to be able to, so we're watching a new hire very, very carefully in those early months, especially in those moments to test them. And if they're veering off the path, we're going to correct it. And if they veer off the path again in an unethical way, they just won't be part of the company anymore. And then the other part of that is, as you see behavior that's positive, that's a sign of good behavior and good ethics, we're going to highlight that and share that message and that story with the team. Because a lot of times there's a money grab, there's an opportunity to get a change order for something, and when a teammate consciously makes that decision, I'm not going to do that because that's not what Mike or that's not what Bruce would want, that's not what we stand for, we want to highlight that and applaud that behavior.
Got a question back here.
So you talked about like the passion for construction for like new employees. How many of like your employees when they start would you say had like prior backgrounds in construction or had like a significant developed interest in construction before they started working at your company?
I would say the majority. Typically they've got they either went into the trades. So in the St. Louis area, this is a strong union area. So they joined a carpenters union or a laborers union or something like that. So they demonstrated some interest by joining the union in the first place. If they're on the office side, they will often have a construction management degree or civil engineering degree. But we have some high-level people in the company that never went to college or didn't get a college degree. So I would say the majority, but that doesn't mean it's everybody. So really, like I said, it comes down to that culture piece. It's an emotional decision. 50% or more of our business is emotions. How are you able to make others feel? And then what you don't know technically, we can teach you if you're teachable, and if you have the interest to learn, we can teach you that. So I would rather have the former than the latter.
Are there any other questions in the crowd?
You mentioned having to become a student of leadership. Could you elaborate on how you did that? Were there certain books or programs that you pursued?
So programs, books, you name it. So I've been to construction. There's a Construction Leadership Institute. There's all kinds of training that I've been to. Some of it's construction specific, some not. I subscribe to probably way too many periodicals and daily leadership. There's it's called Smart Brief for Leadership. Any of you could sign up for it. It comes out every day, and it's got probably 10 articles all on leadership, and I'll get that every morning, and I'll scan it, and I'll read 2, and I usually forward that, and I'll take the good nuggets and forward that to our team. Books galore. I mean, you can read leadership books from now to the time you die, and you wouldn't get to 10% of them. So, but I'm in favor of just constantly studying. I'll tell you, if you want to get if you don't want to read the whole book, Blinkist is you can get a 15-minute summary of any book. So I've just got we've got a new employee that just turned me on to that. So I've been using that. So I'm constantly. I try to have my wife. I just saw my wife. I didn't know she was going to be here. Where are you, Kim? There, she's up there with my daughter. So she knows on my nightstand there's always a fiction and then a nonfiction hardback book. And I've got one going in the truck all the time on Audible, and then try to do some spiritual stuff too, just to keep me grounded and keep me focused on what's really important. What else?
As you climbed the ranks of your company and your coworkers then became your subordinates, did you ever have a scenario where one of your old coworkers or friends wasn't able to adjust to you now becoming their boss? And if so, how would you deal with something like that, such as maybe not taking a deadline you gave them seriously?
That's a good question, fair question. I have to say, I don't think I had that situation. And there was plenty of opportunity for that to happen, but to the person, it made, why I was in the role versus them. I worried that maybe somebody else felt like they should have been in the role, but not me. And so we just had, if I felt like there was an awkward situation, I like to clear the air. There doesn't need to be, innuendo and mystery around anything, so let's just talk about it. So if there was a couple of people that I thought deserved it, and maybe I thought they deserved it too. But I just said, look, this is what's happened, and you know, we're just here to serve. We're here to help each other, and I don't think that there was any issues like that. It was ripe for it, and maybe it could have happened and should have happened, but I think, again, because of the kind of team members we have, they were all for it. So I was lucky in that regard.
Perfect. Are there any last questions? I see that hand. You like, do I want to ask it? Maybe, maybe not. That's funny.
Have you ever called off a project because it did not align with your company's values?
Have we ever called off a project? Well, so we have definitely not gone after projects because they didn't align. There hasn't been there's a whole go, no-go process in our business. You know, are we going to go after this or are we not? And once we say go, that's because we have vetted it out. And one of those vetting, you know, one of the things we're looking at is this a client that we can be proud to be aligned with? Does this match our values? Are we putting our teammates in harm's way? Not necessarily physically, but are these people going to be unnecessarily hard on our team? And if the answers to some of those questions are yes, then we will pass. So to answer your question, yes, we have turned down work because either the client or the project or maybe just where it was just didn't align with our values. But once we say yes to it, that means it's passed our test, and then we're all hands on deck and we're running hard to make it a success.
Perfect. Well, I got that little.
One more.
Do you find that what you have learned like throughout your years in business and having a minor in business, that what you learned from that in college actually transcribed to your business and how you had to be a leader in business?
I would say on the business side, yes. The business side, honestly, more than the construction side, which might be hard to believe. Because business, accounting from the 1800s and accounting from the 200 years from now will generally be the same principles. And so accounting, what I studied was accounting, finance, economics.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that helped me tremendously. On the construction side, when you study scheduling, for example, you're learning the concepts, but every company does scheduling different. Every company does project management and construction accounting differently. How they do their communications patterns are different. So I learned some philosophies, but when I went to my first job, guess what? I had to unlearn and then relearn how they did it. And so not that it's damaging, but you definitely you have to relearn a lot on the construction side. So like I said earlier, if you're thinking business is where it's at for you, I would pay great attention.
Perfect. That's it on the floor. Are there any other questions from the audience in the back? Okay, perfect. Well, Mike, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. I, for one, have learned a lot. The university has a little surprise for you, though, because you did spend all this time with us today and giving us these little nuggets and making all these friends. So, this is for you on behalf of the university and the Wayne E. Lanter Night Series.
Nice. Do you want me to open this?
Go ahead.
Okay. Holy mackerel, that is one ugly bobblehead. Look at that.
It's him as the bobblehead,
That
everyone.
is awesome.
It's him as the bobblehead.
Oh, that's awesome. I can say that is something I do not have.
It'll go right up there next to your business cards that say built on
you.
integrity. It's just
Thank you
standing
so
on top
much.
of it.
I mean, this audience can tell. These two gentlemen right here and the other people I've been able to interact with, this is the future right here. And it's an honor to be a part of this university. And it's been a blast hanging out with you all day. So, yeah, I got nowhere else to be, so I'm here. If anybody's got any other questions, but if we got to officially wrap it up, I guess we're wrapped.
That's our time. Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good. That's me. You're good.